Got it.
Okay.
Okay, let's try that.
We got your first one.
Okay, you got the second one?
Yep,
Yep.
got it.
Okay, we're in gear. All right, so this is sort of like the uh, simple view of Ireland. Basically, what we did was we chased that road around the perimeter of the island in a clockwise direction. So this is sort of the photo tour you're going to take. Um, Start off with a little bit of the history of Ireland from a couple hundred years back. It goes way back, but anyway, it was 1801. It became part of the UK, and the big event that happened in the 1800s was the Great Potato Famine. I think everybody's heard about that. A lot of people died because of uh, lack of food. There was a lot of immigration to US, Australia, and Canada at that time. And it sort of embedded a lot of animosity with the rest of Britain because of the lack of uh, relief for the people of Ireland. So this sort of bred a lot of bad feelings in the late 1800s to 1916. There was um, a big push on nationalism for the Irish that wanted to run their own country. And uh, first little uh, uprising attempt was in Dublin in 1916, which failed. And then in 1919, the War of Independence happened between the IRA and the British forces. This resulted in a treaty that created an Irish Free State and partitioned the Northern Ireland as part of the UK. The rest of Ireland became an independent state. Um, After World War II, Ireland left the British Commonwealth and became a republic. So it was totally separate from the rest of the British Empire, 1949. The 1960s to 1998, most of us have heard of the Northern Ireland Troubles, as they're called, which was a lot of sectarian violence between Protestants and Catholics. One of the big events of that was Bloody Sunday in 1972, and we'll revisit that a little bit through the later in the presentation. Um, Finally, in 1998, they had the Good Friday Agreement, which ended most of the violence. Um, there, I guess they gave the Catholics more power sharing in the government of Northern Ireland and um, a promise that, or I guess a commitment that if they get a majority vote someday in the future, which they haven't yet, that Northern Ireland will eventually join the Republic of Ireland. So that's just a little history in a nutshell. Presently, I guess Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, has undergone a fair bit of economic growth in the last 25 years. They had a little bit of a blip in 2008 along with the rest of us, but seem to have recovered fairly strongly in the last 15 years or so. Republic of Ireland is known for some progressive social changes. They've legalized same-sex marriage and abortion by referendum. Um, it still is a predominantly Catholic country, but it's been eroding over the years with immigration, more Christians, Muslims, and other religions, and also a fairly strong no religion component in the country today. Um, Brexit sort of refocused attention on Northern Ireland's status again, with it being part of the remaining part of the UK. It is no longer part of the EU, which the Republic of Ireland is. So what you've got are since Brexit, there's been a border through the country that is EU, non-EU, but they've been able to effectively use the Irish Sea as the trade border. So you don't get into customs checkpoints and so on. Essentially, when you go back and forth between uh, the Irish Republic and Northern Ireland, like we did, we were on a secondary road. You don't see anything other than a sign that tells you that speeds in miles per hour now, and distances are in miles, and you got to use pounds instead of euros when you're in Northern Ireland. So that's really all you see when you go between the two. Um, so why did we pick going to Ireland? Oh, we've never been there. We had a trip planned there in 2003, but it got canceled due to the potential pandemic from SARS. I actually had a business trip over there to go to a conference, and we were going to tack on a couple weeks and do some vacationing, but my company wouldn't let me leave the country to go there, so we uh, we sort of had that on the back burner for quite a while. Um, we'd been to Scotland and Northern England a few years earlier, um, and we sort of enjoyed it. So it was time to go to Ireland. Also, my wife's ancestry is Irish, which was we thought we might be able to do a little exploring of the family tree while we were there. And Ireland's a relatively easy country to travel in. They sort of speak English there, um, and other than driving on the wrong side of the road, it's uh, it's fairly easy to get along. So I guess our type of travel is to sort of do our own thing. We like to plan our own trips and accommodations and our itinerary. Um, but we did look at several of the bus tours and that go around the island. I think I talked to Don Stenson uh, from the club there, and they'd gone the year before and did a bus tour. So we did look at a couple of those itineraries and uh, looked at some of the Irish tourism sites for driving tours and picked up a Lonely Planet guide and sort of put some stuff together before we left. We had all of our accommodation booked and sort of a route mapped out that we would more or less follow. Um, Couple things here. Car rental, if you're going to drive yourself, it's left-hand side driving, obviously. Roads are narrow, and typically, unless you want to spend twice as much, you're going to end up with a manual gearbox car. So I've done all that stuff before, so not too big of a challenge. So we were able to manage getting around okay. Didn't put any scratches on the rental car. So for accommodation, we used a mix of hotels, bed and breakfast, VRBO properties, Airbnbs, and we stayed in a castle one night. So for that type of travel, basically, we like to go fairly light. We've got some medium-sized rolling duffel bags and a backpack each. Um, we're basically just casual clothes only. It was fall season. We were there in September, so I didn't have to worry about shorts and t-shirts too much. You do need some waterproof gear. We had Gore-Tex jackets, packed a couple collapsing umbrellas, had waterproof hiking shoes, some hiking poles. Um, Being that I wanted to take a lot of pictures, obviously I lightened up my pack a little bit. Took my full frame Sony camera, uh, 24 to 105, which is a fairly versatile lens and a wide angle lens. I did take a long lens with me to try to keep it into a small camera bag, and MacBook Pro for downloading pictures and posting a few as we went along. Uh, Took a few guidebooks and power adapters that you need for running on the 220 volt for chargers and so on. Getting there, we did a nonstop flight from Toronto to Dublin. And as I mentioned, we were a little late getting underway. It was about 2.5 hour delay getting in the air. And I can't remember what the problem was on the plane that night, but I think it was a technical issue. So we're didn't have a very good sleep going over, and finally got to the airport about 3 hours late. Picked up our rental car. One thing over there, rental cars are fairly economical. I think I paid the equivalent of $21 Canadian a day for it. No, 21 US a day, which was a bargain. It was a nice little Peugeot SUV. So uh, that worked out good. So our plan was to fly into Cork or fly into Dublin and leave immediately and go to Cork and hit Dublin on the way back out. So being that we were 3 hours late, we missed a few stops that were on our uh, to-do list in order to get there in time for our supper reservation at our hotel. So this is sort of the route that gives you a perspective where we're going. Dublin Airport, on the right-hand side there, it was about a 3.5 hour drive to Cork, which is down near Blarney Castle, which we never went to see because we were running late. Just a quick travel tip here. I've done this a couple times when you first hop into your rental car at the airport. Uh, Sometimes it's a little, overwhelming trying to figure out how to get out of the maze of roads in the place. And I found this helps out a little bit as you go on Google Street View and uh, see if you can find out where your rental car parking lot is, and then just trace the first little bit of your trip with using the Street View. And it was amazing how familiar this looked once I got into the car. I was, oh yeah, I remember this turn. I looked at this night before or the day before we left. So anyway, just a little tip. So we got to Cork City. Um, it's the second largest uh, city in Ireland. Um, Founded in the 6th century, chartered in 1185. It uh, the central core of the town was burned to the ground by the British during the War of Independence back in the 1800s. So a lot of it is sort of from that era on. Um, Main commercial street is St. Patrick's Street. Um, that was fairly easy walk from our hotel, about 15-20 minutes. We were right down there. Um, we only had a day there, so we, looked at the travel guide, uh, some of the venues that were, near the downtown core. The English Market apparently is a sort of number one tourist attraction there. There's an old abbey, downtown that was sort of neat, and St. Finbarr's Cathedral. Um, Most of or a lot of the industries that are in Cork now are sort of, it's a tech center in Ireland, and pharmaceuticals. So, I think, people that live there are fairly well-to-do, and um, town looks very, very nice. This is our, uh, on the left picture, there's the hotel that we stayed at on the River Lee, which runs through town, sort of divides the city. And so the next day we got out walking about. The photo on the left is uh, the main street, St. Patrick's. Sort of that unique street lighting in the downtown core, sort of uh, interesting. But as you see, it's mostly low-rise buildings, three, 4 story. Not a lot of big skyscrapers there. The right-hand side, there's photos of the English market. The entrance doesn't look like much, but it's huge inside. There's just a vast array of fresh foods and little kiosks with, you can pick up a lunch there or whatever. And it's worth a walk around for an hour or so. Some more views of walking about in uh, downtown Cork. The photo on the right, the red building is an abbey from, I believe, about the 1500s. So it's one of the fewer old buildings that were still standing there. Um, like a lot of European cities, a lot of street art, um, and a lot of buildings have commissioned murals on them, plus the works of graffiti artists. Top right picture was an area down by uh, the water that was an old port, and uh, it's all in ruins now, but there were a bunch of storehouses there and so on when stuff used to get shipped up the river into Cork from years before. Um, there's a fort in the middle of town. It's called Elizabeth Fort. This is a panorama picture that I stitched together from standing up on the wall of the fort, that gives a sort of a view of what the town looks like. And as I said, there's very few high-rise buildings there, and mostly the stuff that was probably built back in the late 1800s. And this is a fairly large cathedral that's uh, just in the downtown area. St. Finbarr's Cathedral. We were running a little bit short on time, so we didn't get a chance to get inside and do some photography in there. But quite an impressive structure. And of course, then we found a pub on the way back to the hotel for a little bit of rehydration therapy. And picture on the right was, I think that was the pub we went to for dinner that night. All walkable. There are tons of places to choose from there. So from Cork, we went down to a little town called Kinsale, and it's a yachting harbor. Um, it's very narrow streets, lots of galleries, gift shops, bars, and a really cool fort. And the picture on the right is I sort of amused me. That wasn't me parking in the age friendly, by the way. Um, the uh, parking lot, or we noticed a few of these parking spots around, and I think they could use some in the Palm Springs area too. Or, if you're not that good at getting between the lines with your car. So that was the route we took Cork down to Kinsale, which you can see is down on the sea. One of the reasons we went there, one of my friends at my sailing club uh, uh, suggested we visit there, and we might see this regatta that was going on. So this is a regatta of a class of boat called the Dragon, which were an Olympic class boat, fairly famous. They're no longer sailed in the Olympics, but my friend has actually gone over and chartered boats to sail in, or a boat to sail in this regatta and a couple of the other Dragon events in Europe. This one, there were, I think, 11 different countries representatives there from as far as Japan. And it's quite a famous boat. The King of Greece and I believe the King of Denmark have competed in this. Prince Philip and Elizabeth actually were given a dragon as a wedding present back in the early 50s. So anyway, fairly famous boat, and it was sort of fun to go and watch. This was practice day, so they were just getting launched and ready to go out for a few day regatta there. So this is downtown Kinsale. Cute little shops, colorful, narrow sidewalk, more narrow street. It was quite a challenge to drive through there. And this was the Charles Fort, which is out on the bay, guarding the harbor. It's if you look down on it, it's a five-pointed star sort of layout of the walls, but well preserved and nice to look at. So later that afternoon, we drove from Kinsale for another 90 kilometers to the town of Killarney, and it's not too big of a place, about 15,000 people. It's sort of a base camp for people that are going to Killarney National Park and the Ring of Kerry Scenic Drive. There's lots of restaurants, pubs, and accommodations. I was just amazed at the little down or the relatively small downtown area, but it was just packed with people uh, uh, out for supper. And so when we were there, this is a place where we stayed in a B&B. And that's a picture of it on the right. So just a few street scenes from downtown Killarney. So the next day we set out on a tour of the Ring of Kerry, which takes you all along it's basically almost a shoreline drive. Start off going through Killarney National Park and then out towards the sea. So you can see it's a 3 hour and 1 minute drive if you don't stop, but it was an all-day adventure. So we started off did a little hike in Killarney Park to the Torque Waterfalls. Nice little hike, very lush. Great woodlands there with lots of moss on the trees. Could have stayed there longer doing photography, but we knew we had to move on. Just a couple views from the road heading out towards the coast. Again, you can see it's a typical Irish day with a mixed bag of weather. And we're getting out to the western coast here now. The road is up high. It gives you some great overlooks as you're driving along it. One thing I didn't mention, we found there was a recommended way to circumnavigate this loop, and the uh, the big tour buses, which are at least as big as North American buses on these small roads, by the way, they travel in a counterclockwise direction. So all the recommendation is if you're in a car, go clockwise, so you're not having to pass them on these narrow roads. Anyway, we took that advice and it worked out good. Famous viewpoint there. So we were back to Killarney to the B&B for another night, and then next day's trip was following what they call the Wild Atlantic Way route, which goes all the way up the west coast of Ireland. We did about 265 kilometers on this day, and there was another set of cliffs with nice viewpoints part way up there. The cliffs of Moher, you can see them there along the the route highlighted, and so that was another stop that we did to do some of the tourist sightseeing. A few sea stacks there. And hiking trails along the edge of the cliffs. So at the end of the day, we arrived in Galway. Um, it's the fourth largest city in Ireland, about 90,000 people. So, um, you know, cities by and large aren't big there, other than Dublin. Um, it's got sort of an arty and bohemian type of culture, lots of pubs, music, food, festivals. Uh, there we had selected an apartment to stay in. We found one and it was right downtown above TK Maxx. I don't know if that's TJ Maxx's Irish cousin or I don't know. But anyway, it was a nice modern apartment. And unfortunately, our full day that we were going to have there to explore Galway got curtailed a bit due to some fairly heavy rain in the morning, which by later morning had sort of stopped, and we managed to get out and start walking around with all the other tourists. And you could see all the tourists walking around. It was uh, surprised at how busy it was. Um, Again, building art. This is the waterfront area of Galway. Interesting buildings there. Enjoyed looking at the waterfront facilities that they had. Again, this area is called the Latin Quarter. Tons of restaurants, pubs, numerous street performers out with their instrument cases open looking for donations. Found, I can't remember the name of this church that we stumbled into, a nice old stone building. Can't really figure out what the Georgia Tech and Florida State banner was all about. Oh, this was in the fall. And had to be something to do with football, but North American football. I don't. It was sort of mystified me, and I never did figure it out. Again, our famous supper place. Find a corner bar. This one was near our hotel and our apartment, and had some good recommendations, and had some more pub food. So the next day we left there and went up to continued on the Wild Atlantic Way and did a bit of a side trip to this Kylemore Abbey, which was highlighted in one of the travel guides. And it was a private residence that um, changed hands a few times and then finally became an abbey when some nuns bought it. Um, they used part of it as a nunnery and part of it as a public access historic building that you could go through. And there are also some nice gardens on site that you're able to tour. And end of the day, we ended up at that castle at the bottom. You'll see some more pictures of that. So this is the route we took. Galway, you can see where Kylemore is on the left, and then where our castle was. So this is the few interior shots of the abbey, uh, nicely furnished and restored to period uh, architecture. Gardens. That picture on the right was just sort of leading up to the sort of out the front yard scene, but very typical of the geography in that or the landscape in that area. And after that, we ended up at our castle. It was Chris's birthday, so I promised her a nice place that night. So we had typical castle bedroom, nicely done. They didn't seem to be too busy, so that I think we got a free upgrade to one of the nicer suites that night, and enjoyed our time there. From there, continuing north up on the Donegal coast, we did a bit of a side trip again to see some more ocean cliffside sites at Sleeve League. You can see that on the map. It was about halfway up to our destination, heading up towards the north of Ireland. And one thing you have to watch for, like in Scotland, are these little critters that sometimes wander onto the road. And there's, as you can see, you get on a typical secondary highway, there's really nowhere to go to avoid them if you can see all the little white dots up there, and maybe you can't see it on the screen. They're the ones that are up there in their paddocks, but the odd time they appear in front of you, so you have to always be on guard. So this is a view of the Sleeve League cliffs. Quite stunning, actually. They were, and they're off the beaten path a bit. The bus tours don't really go here. Quite stunning. One of the reasons the bus tours don't go there is that you have to park in the town and take a shuttle van up to the viewpoint. and that sort of cuts down on the traffic a little bit. Very nice area. And on the right, just a general view of the landscape up the looking inland from the coast. So the little town of Anergy where we were, we stayed in a place that sort of looked similar to this tavern. It was uh, very nice. They had a nice restaurant and, rooms were okay. Not a lot up there, but we were right on the sea where we stayed. This place we found out afterwards, we could have stayed there. It's called Leo's Pub. And there's an Irish singing group called Enya that you may have heard of. And this is where they got their start on their careers. So we went from there, did some sightseeing, stopped at a national park, Glenveigh, went to visit a castle and some gardens, and then we got into Northern Ireland. So this is sort of the route. You can sort of see the black line on the right-hand side. That's the border between the Irish Republic and uh, Northern Ireland. So this is sort of driving towards the park. A few arms that come in from the sea, and a couple of neat little villages, some church ruins. This is I think one of the higher peaks in Ireland is called Aragel. Uh, Very barren and very brown that time of year. So Glenveigh Castle. This is a part of I think they call it a National Trust or National Monument. Um, so anyway, they've got a walking tour through the various rooms in the in the castle, and then some very nice, again, very nice gardens outside, and um, bottom right is they actually had a freshwater swimming pool there down by the sea, which was very unusual for the period that the castle was constructed in. And some more. This is like a one-lane road I think we were on, going to a viewpoint that was marked on the map. And somewhere shortly after this, we crossed the border into Northern Ireland, but had no idea we were there. Like I say, there's no border control between the two, and it's pretty seamless. So we arrived in Derry, and this was there's a story here on the top left picture. This was the tenement that we stayed in, which was sort of interesting. Um, wasn't expecting this. Um, we were in the middle floor unit on the end with the satellite dish. Um, we'd found this on VRBO, I think, and there were no exterior pictures of the building, but the inside was very nice. It was very modern, totally renovated. It had the feature of being like steps away from the walled city. And I thought, oh, this looks good. And gee, we pulled into the parking lot. Are we in the right place, right? Check the GPS. Well, there we were. So this is if you take a look at the picture on the bottom left, that was across the street from our tenement. And that's the Bloody Sunday Monument. And uh, from when the British troops mowed down a bunch of uh, young Catholic protesters in the parking lot where I parked my car. Uh, so anyway, I guess it's sort of a memorial. I think maybe a bit more of a touristy spot now. 'Cause we were watching, and there are all sorts of walking groups walking by, looking at all these murals that are painted on the row housing in the area, and this is just a sample of them. It was quite interesting. So when we were there, the one reason we picked that apartment was it had a washing machine. So we always like we were like 10 days in, figured out we got to do laundry. So we looking for a place that had laundry facility. So ended up the first day we were there, the pouring rain in the morning, and so a good time to do the laundry. And we finally got out and did a walkabout in town. And as you can see from the top photo there, that's about what the better part of the day looked like in Derry. Um, there's a it's a walled city. It was only like a couple blocks from our place, and you could get up on this wall and walk around the town and have a good view down into the various streets, which is probably what you're going to see in a lot of these photos. Um, the top right is the walkway that goes around. So we managed to get about two-thirds of the way around there before it started to pour rain. Um, the uh, bottom left picture is again some more building art. It's the cast of a show called The Dairy Girls, and it is popular on the BBC. And if you have BritBox in America, you can watch it. And it's a tale of high school age kids that grew up during the Troubles. So we watched a few episodes of it after we got home, and it was sort of interesting. So anyway, good view if you want to sort of figure out what it was like living there back then. Um, Bottom right, as you can see, there's from the signs on some of the properties, there's still some hard feelings that linger, uh, you know, 20 years later. But anyway, they'll eventually get over it. So, given that it was pouring rain, this O'Loughlin's looked pretty inviting. So we ducked in there and wasted an hour or two while waited for the rain to stop to walk home. And enjoyed another Irish pub. So the next day we left Derry, um, heading to Belfast, which is the capital of uh, Northern Ireland, and with a stop at the Bushmills Distillery and the Giant's Causeway. Uh, oh, yeah, there's a story there. We got to Bushmills and found it was in the morning. They found out that their tours were all booked up until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We weren't going to wait, so uh, I was taking some photos around the place, and one of the employees saw me and asked where we're from, and said, "Oh," I explained, "Oh, we're just here, you know, couldn't get on a tour." He said, "Oh, here, I'll let you in." So he let us into the high-end tasting room, and we got to hold the bottles. We didn't get to drink any, but anyway. uh, anyway, he took our picture. So you can see the Giant's Causeway at the top, and Bushmills was right underneath there. So that's sort of where we're at. The Giant's Causeway is sort of an interesting uh, geological peculiarity. They've got these basalt columns, and there's about 40,000 of them, apparently. I didn't count, but they're all, some of them are exposed like you see in the center photograph, and some you just see the top of them and they look like almost like six-sided paving stones, like a cobblestone, and they go all out on the point out there, and they were formed from volcanic activity way back. But there's uh, some Irish lore about uh, Finn McCool, who is a mythical Irish giant, hence the Giant's Causeway. And this causeway apparently was in mythology linked to Scotland. And Finn walked out on the causeway and fought off the Scottish guy, Ben Donor was, I think, his name. And anyway, that's the story that they present in the Welcome Center. But anyway, it was sort of fun to walk around there, get a break from driving. Um, just sort of like driving along the northern coastal area of Northern Ireland. A few nice stone harbors, farmland, um, and we arrived in Belfast, which is the hotel we stayed at, right across from the Titanic, just for tourist attraction, just across the river, and fairly convenient. We were about a 10-minute walk or so from the hotel to the start of the core of the downtown area. So Belfast, about 350,000 people. Um, again, another one of these places where you could spend several days there, but of course, we're trying to see all of Ireland in 2 weeks, so we gotta budget a bit. But we put lots of steps on that day, and we did a walking tour of the city center, then went across the river, walked over to the Titanic display, back to the other side of the river, back downtown for supper. Finally got home well tired out after about 12 hours on our feet. Neat architecture. There's some interesting buildings there. As I said, we did a walking tour. This was we find sometimes if you don't have a lot of time and you want to see the highlights, those are a pretty good investment in your time. The lady that was doing this grew up during the Troubles, so was able to relate a lot of what was sort of going on with the uh, uh, between the British troops and the IRA at the time, when she was a teenager. Um, some nice old buildings here. There's an opera house, as you can see the bottom left. The city hall is a beautiful building. We just did not have time to get inside and have a look around, but apparently it's quite nice inside. There's this famous Crown Saloon in the sort of right in the core of the downtown. It's quite famous. It's owned by the Irish Trust and leased back to an operator, and it's got all the decor that would have been there back in the sort of the start of the 19th century, or the 1900s, I should say. That middle hotel, the Europa, is another famous building. It is the most bombed hotel in Europe. 33 times it was bombed during the Troubles. mainly because it was mostly occupied by foreign journalists for the duration that we're covering the uh, the situation in Northern Ireland at the time. And right-hand side, just a contrast in architecture between some of the older buildings and the newer high-rise stuff there. So on the right is the exterior shot of the Titanic memorial display. I don't know, memorial. It's a um, sort of gives a history of shipbuilding in Belfast and uh, sort of a impression of what it was like, building vessels in the harbor uh, back in the early 1900s when Belfast was sort of the center of the universe for shipbuilding. So after a night's rest, we headed out to County Down on our way to Dublin. So this is a day 13 of our trip. And, we went to the town of St. Field and later on went to visit St. Patrick at his resting place and ended up in Dublin. Returned our car there. So the story of St. Field, this is Chris at the church. And through her research over the years, found that this is, you can see where St. Field is compared to Belfast on this map. Uh, Her great-grandfather was the vicar of that church. And to our surprise, we went in, and in the vestibule, I'm looking and I say, oh, here's a list of the vicars. Oh, there he is. And then over a little further over, there was a picture of him. So that was quite rewarding and sort of made our day. So then we went on to Down Cathedral. And under that stone on the right, it's reported that that's where St. Patrick lies. Apparently, there's some dispute on that, but we talked to the organist at this church, and he was quite adamant that that was where he is. So anyway, it was an interesting conversation we had with him, and he'd been to Niagara and the Lake Ontario, so. So then we arrived in Dublin. We dumped the rental car because we didn't want to drive in the town, which was a good idea. And we had I guess, sort of a little, I call it sort of a boutique hotel right in the heart of the city, the Drury Hotel, and it was. It was centrally located. We got lots of tips from our Uber driver that was taking us there on, I think he pointed out every bar in the neighborhood that he liked, and he's obviously visited them all. The one on the left here is a little bit, it's one he pointed out to us, and we went over there for a pint after we got supper, and it's called the Long Haul, and apparently any time that Bruce Springsteen is in Dublin, this is where he frequents. And I did talk to an individual that was sitting next to us, and he confirmed that. So yeah, got to be true. Another travel tip, and those of you that have been in left-hand driving places, this is a good tip. And here they put it right on the pavement. So don't step out in front of a car coming from the right. So downtown Dublin, walking about, just some shots of the architecture, lots of, sort of nice brick buildings here. Again, we picked up on one of these walking tours that covered some of the area in the core of the city and got a little bit of the history and pointing out some of the highlights. There's it's sort of divided in two by a river, River Liffey. And there's one area that's called the Temple Bar, which was uh, there is a bar called the Temple Bar, but it's not really named after a bar where you'd expect a bar to be. It's a sandbar. And this part of the city was sort of sand that had filled in on the River Liffey over the years. And I imagine they added a little bit more fill to it and did an infill and this back when this part of the downtown got built up into a sort of an entertainment zone with lots of nightlife. One of my happy bartenders at the in a whiskey shop that I just liked the lighting in there. Wasn't stopping to imbibe. That St. Patrick's Cathedral on the left. We passed that on our way to the Guinness Storehouse, which is a big tourist attraction where they memorialize the brewing of Guinness beer and sort of give you a bit of a nice story of the hops and the water and so on. The part that I liked was the where it says Guinness is 95% water. This is a series of nozzles and lights and they're squirting this water down, and it's rolling from the top to the bottom, and it's all obviously computer controlled, but I was able to sort of freeze the logo that it was scrolling. So I thought it was sort of cool. And after you finish the tour, you get your complimentary pint poured up on the roof bar of this storehouse, and got a nice little view of the town from up there. It seems that we're near Trinity College, so it's sort of a university area, just a few blocks away from our hotel, and we walked down this one street heading towards a restaurant for the night or for our evening meal. It's like all the kids are out there, and there's all these bars, and they just go inside, get a beer, and sit on the sidewalk, and you know have a good time. Sort of interesting. Our little horse here on the left was little Irish pull carts that they have running around for the tourists, sort of like the carriage rides that they have in our hometown here of Niagara on the Lake, except the horses are a lot smaller. The castle on the right is in the downtown area. It's called Dublin Castle. And I think it's used to be a lot of living space in there. Not sure what's going on with it now, but anyway, it sort of looked neat. Next day we went out. There was a park near us, right in the middle of the downtown, called St. Stephen's Green, and top left shows a view of that. And today we were just on our own, sort of exploring around and taking a look in the shops and doing some street photography. We went over to visit the Trinity College at very very old place. Chris's great grandfather actually had gone there. So it'd been around for a while. That's obviously one of the older buildings. One of the new ones on the right has got this sort of living wall on it, which I thought was sort of cool. Again, bottom right, that's some of the architecture and the doorways and windows in that one of the buildings. Bridge over the river. It's called the Halfpenny Bridge. It's quite I guess, a tourist attraction. So you have to walk over that. And again, so sort of closing out our time in Dublin. We're just, spending a lot of time walking around. Again, we were out for supper, and all the students were out again. And I did find a really cool whiskey bar. And the thing that caught my eye was a Canadian whiskey on that bottom right photo, which is Wayne Gretzky, number 99, Canadian whiskey. That's made just up the street from here, where I am in Niagara on the Lake right now. And the thing that is astounding is the price. If you look at the label, the bottle is 250 euros, which works out to $398 Canadian. I can drive up the street and get that for $40. So I see they hadn't sold it, and it's not that great a whiskey. But anyway, so that was about the end of our trip there. We had about 15 days on the road, and I'd highly recommend taking a tour or doing it yourself. But I think you'll find that in some places that you just don't have enough days to see everything you want to see. Anyway, any questions?
Anybody have questions? We can pass the mic.
Very good, Jim.
Pat, I have a question you can just ask me. Sometimes you hear that if you're over 75, they don't rent rental cars. Some places say they do. Does Jim know anything about that?
Yeah, I do. And when we rented in Ireland, I just happened to be 75. So, but I did notice that the rental company that I was dealing with there, and I can't remember what. Sorry, I was 74. That's right. This year I was 75 when we went to France. There was no age restriction in France, but there was in Ireland. So I think you might have to shop that around a little bit. I know a friend of mine who is in his 80s managed to rent a car in Scotland this summer, and didn't have any issues with finding a rental there. So I think you just have to maybe shop it a bit.
Anything else?
Well, what I noticed in Scotland, it seemed that the major rental car companies didn't have a age limit, but
Others do.
one local rental car company that I dealt with did have a 75.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. That was a great show. Thanks for doing that. And
Well, thanks for getting us on the air.
Yeah, that was a challenge. I don't know what changed, but you know, and all these different companies worrying so much about your security and they're and you know, if it's my bank, I'm all for it. And
Yeah,
if it's my Zoom, who cares?
yeah. If somebody wanted to watch that,
The worst thing is they use our account and don't have to pay. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just we've got all this security. There's a comedian that's done a really funny about a 10-minute show on how things have changed. And he said, you know, first we had the internet and then you had to do a password. And then they said, but that password's not any good.
yeah.
And then
Needs
you
20
had different
characters.
phone. Yeah.
No two can be the same.
How's Jim doing? How you doing? Yeah, give us a little recap.
Oh, yeah. Not doing too bad. I've